So here's David Bailey's future sack number on PrizePicks. Cody Stoots, would you go more or less on 6.5 sacks in year one for David Bailey?
Well, he's definitely getting the first one, week one against the Titans. That's a terrible offensive line. So there's one. I'd probably go more on this. This is, and the Jets too, like the way that I would think are going to end up playing defense. He doesn't have to go and just like dominate his guy and go take care of it. He can get some of those cleanups. I'd probably go more on 6.5 sacks. I like David Bailey enough to say, hey, 7 sacks in the rookie season, absolutely doable.
What is success in year one for David Bailey? What does he have to do for Jet fans to feel like, all right, we got a real player here with the number 2 pick? Is the last number 2 pick this franchise selected is currently the 3rd string quarterback of the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, that's where it ended up, huh? I think for Bailey, you want consistency. You want him to just be a presence for every game this season. Obviously, everybody wants their guy to stay healthy. That goes without saying. But you want him to be consistent and be a guy that has to get accounted for stretches of games every year. The sack numbers can be deceiving, but you want his ability to showcase consistent pressure. You don't try to crush a rookie for the sack numbers, but if they end up nice, that certainly helps. And then you'd love to see him be able to stay on the field in all downs a little bit more. That I know that was a big concern is, hey, how's he going to handle pure rushing situations at the NFL level where the other team is going to run the football? You'd love to see him stay on the field for a few more of those than you'd expect and just build a nice baseline. Like the excellence should show up down the road as he gets comfortable, but build a nice baseline. I think that's success is consistency week in, week out for Bailey with a flash here and there. Like when you face a bad offensive line, week 1, Tennessee, go out there and make some plays. Go out there and flash some things. Hey, surprise a really good tackle on the schedule at some point with a rough day to where, that guy's sitting there that week, like, rookie really gave it to me. Like, I think that's the big thing for me. I don't think you are going to see some massive number pop in the first year for Bailey, but put in a nice base layer that he's constantly building on year to year, and you're on your way. You don't want some flash in the pan success. You want the long-term success.
So you're definitely qualified to speak to this because the team you cover up close, the Houston Texans, they took Will Anderson Jr. with the 3rd overall pick. Bailey, of course, the number 2 pick. Will Anderson had a really good rookie season. He was the defensive rookie of the year. Only had 7 total sacks, though, but clearly was impactful. So what did you see from Will Anderson that maybe the box score doesn't necessarily show?
Yeah, the big thing for Will Anderson was the consistency. Constant pressure was a factor each week. Will missed a little bit of time his rookie year. So, again, playing a full season is a big thing for Bailey. The big thing for Anderson that some people were skeptical on, but once you saw him, it made sense that he was going to be good at it, was Anderson stopped the run really well as a rookie and continues to stop the run really well. Just a complete defensive end. So that would be the thing that really jumped off the page. Yes, the sack numbers and some of the constant pressure was there. And he was close on turning a lot of pressures into sacks. That was a big thing for Anderson too. And that'll be a thing for Bailey is as you'll learn at the NFL level how to convert these close pressures into sacks. And that's what Anderson did over the next couple of seasons that really kind of helped elevate him. But he was also really good against the run. And again, that's one of the big questions about Bailey is how consistent is he going to be against the run game? And if he showcases that early on, that's a great sign for the Jets.
How hot is it in Houston, Texas? And is this summer going to be just brutal?
The summer's going to be awful. I mean, it's going to be well over 100 for large stretches. Thankfully, it's raining a little bit, so it's not crush you hot just yet. But yeah,
you got your Gustbuster umbrella.
I do. I have multiple. Yeah, it's going to be crush you hot in July and August, and that's fine. That's what you sign up for in Houston. It never gets really that cold, but it's certainly going to get super hot in the summer.
So I have a great story I haven't told you. So our old co-host on the Wheelhouse, so Cody and I used to do a show together on ESPN Houston. Our other co-host, Brad Kellner, he lives in Austin now. And Austin to San Antonio is about an hour and change away. So BK sends me a text after the Knicks won Game 4 over the Spurs in the NBA Finals and goes, hey, if you need my apartment I'm leaving for the weekend. It's yours if you want to come down for the game. I'm going to Mexico. So he went to Mexico on vacation with his girlfriend. So I was this close to pulling the trigger if I didn't have to be a groomsman in a wedding over the weekend in Boston. I was this close to headed back to Texas to watch the Knicks win a championship.
Man, I think I'd have reassessed that friendship, to be honest with you.
You know him, Alex Lebowitz.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, you should have definitely gone to the game. He would have understand. Isn't he a lawyer now? So you could have had your lawyer hat on the friendship contract and said, yeah, no, I have a Knicks championship out. I got to go. See ya.
Had to do it. Cody, you were the man. I appreciate you hopping on. Any food takes that you have on the way out? You're my trusted go-to when it comes to anything on food.
I think Burger King's back.
Really?
It fell off for a little while. I think Burger King's back. So I think that's been a big development.
You have a go-to at BK that has changed your perception?
Whopper. Just a Whopper. Good old-fashioned Whopper. I think they've elevated their game. They've got back into the hunt here a little bit. So I think Burger King's back. See, you don't have these. I was going to tell you about them, but you don't have them up where you are. But if any of your listeners can get themselves to an HEB and can send them to you, HEB's got Caesar salad dressing chips, and they're delicious.
Wow.
They're delicious. So maybe I can send you a bag.
Please do. I will sample it on the show.
You'll enjoy them. That's where I'm at right now. I don't have anything just like drastically that's changed anything for me. Nothing groundbreaking. But BK being back was a big one. I got a little food. I'll leave you on this little food trivia. I found this out the other day because I know you're a big fan of this restaurant. You're familiar with the Chick-fil-A sandwich.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. You're familiar with Waffle House as well, right?
Oh, who isn't?
Exactly. So did you know that when the Chick-fil-A sandwich was first invented, it was sold in Waffle House?
I did not know that.
The first place to sell Chick-fil-A sandwiches was Waffle House. The sandwiches got popular enough that Waffle House said, thanks, no thanks, we don't want you in our restaurants anymore. And that's when Chick-fil-A opened up their very first location in a mall.
All right, Asmaniacs, listen up for a second. No matter what you're watching, whether it's New York sports or any game you didn't plan on caring about, there's no better way to stay locked in than with PrizePicks. It's daily fantasy made simple. You're just picking more or less on player projections. That's it. No complicated lineups, no nonsense. Just you versus the numbers. And here's why I love it. Even if it's a game you normally wouldn't care about, once you got a lineup going, you're locked in. Every play matters, every drive matters, every at-bat matters. I've been mixing sports too. Maybe a little football, throwing some baseball, maybe some basketball, and now you've got action across the board all night, and PrizePicks makes it even better with features like early cash outs if your picks are hitting, the ability to mix multiple sports in one lineup, and you can even see what other people are playing and tail their picks. So if you haven't tried it yet, what are you doing? Download the PrizePicks app right now. Use code HMA. That's HMA. And you'll get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, it's HMA on PrizePicks. PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. I'm going to play you a clip from Field Yates, ESPN's NFL draft analyst, reacting to the news of Sorsby actually planning to apply for the supplemental draft. We will react right after you hear from Field.
Wow. Huge news involving Brendan Sorsby, who now it looks like will be in the 2026 supplemental NFL draft. Make no mistake about it. Each NFL team's going to have a different evaluation of how much this gambling scandal that has led to all of this impacts the outlook for Brendan Sorsby. It's a part of his football character. From a talent standpoint, make no mistake about it. If Brendan Sorsby played well in 2026, he was going to go in the first round of 2027. This guy's legit. He had a chance to go maybe in the top 10 picks if things broke really right during his time at Texas Tech. This guy's got good size, very good athlete, a sick runner, 18 rushing touchdowns over the past 2 seasons. He is a gamer. He's got serious moxie. His second reaction skills are all legit. This guy's got the goods to play in the NFL. I thought last year the accuracy waxed and waned too much, but he's got starting quarterback upside in the NFL. Which teams might be interested? hard not to think about a team like the New York Jets, still looking for a long-term answer. Plenty of draft capital right now. Geno Smith going to be the starter with Kate Klubnik behind him. Beyond that, could a team like the Cleveland Browns also still looking for a long-term answer? They have additional draft capital to work with as well after the Myles Garrett trade. And then, of course, finally, the Arizona Cardinals, a team that kind of on the periphery here. Not sure they would make a ton of sense because of the Carson Beck selection, but Beck drafted at the top of the third round, not enough to fully stamp him as the guy that they are going to build around going forward. I think Sorsby is going to end up being taken in the second round of the supplemental draft. Of course, teams are making these picks without knowing exactly where they are going to fall in the order the following year. And worth noting, you can only use your own picks in the supplemental draft. So a team like the New York Jets that's got multiple picks, for example, in the first round, could only use their own first round pick in the supplemental NFL draft. I think Sorsby ends up in the second round, but a fascinating next few weeks is on tap for a player with tons of talent.
All right, Cody. So what is the latest that you've heard being much closer to the situation than any of us? Like, again, if he is in the supplemental draft, like how big are some of the character concerns with this player? Just your general thoughts on where we're at right now with the Sorsby situation.
Yeah, he's entering the supplemental draft because it feels like he got cold feet that his legal ruling that was going to let him play would hold up. And there's just so many different ways you can challenge things. And there was a overwhelming groundswell against a player who bet on college football games and bet on a team that he was on playing again. The Big 12 came out against it. You've seen various other conferences and schools come out against it. So I feel like Brendan Sorsby got cold feet, and he ultimately decided, I'm out of here. I also feel like there's a chance that the Texas Tech football team would decide ultimately, if he did stick around, to just not play him and just to not sacrifice everything that they've done. So that's why he's in the supplemental draft. Then there becomes the various levels of it to the NFL. Look, the NFL's punished a guy who had a college football suspension on his resume who got drafted in the supplemental draft. Happened to Terrell Pryor. He had to serve a suspension, and we'd be foolish, absolutely foolish, to not assume that Brendan Sorsby is gambling on NFL games when he was in college. I mean, he's gambling on pitch by pitch at Reds games. He gambled on college football. So I'm supposed to believe that he just avoided one of the number one gambling sports in the world. So the NFL is going to have some sort of idea about if he's ever gambled on NFL games. And obviously, it's not the easiest thing in the world to like drastically punish the guy for it, but they could certainly carry over the couple of games or add on a little bit more or say, hey, you know what? You've admitted to gambling. You've gambled on the NFL. You gambled on college while you were in college. We're going to hit you with a little bit of a violation of our policy, and you're going to miss some time. It's not like you were in the NFL and gambled on an NFL game, so it won't be like, who was it, Calvin Ridley or Quintez Cephas, some of those guys. But I could definitely see him having to miss time because of this. As far as Sorsby, the guy, I have had no moral objection to gambling. I think gambling's fine. I think, yeah, there's issues with it. There's issues with people who eat too much sugar. The government doesn't have to regulate sugar to some crazy amount. I think gambling should be legal in all 50 states, and I think everybody should be able to play it. I do believe that when you accept a certain set of rules, like Sorsby did to be a college quarterback, you probably shouldn't break those rules. Like I would say, if your job tells you don't gamble, I would say don't gamble. So I don't think there's any sort of big moral thing. Yeah, did he make a few too many bets for people's liking? Sure. My biggest issue was he agreed to a set of rules and then broke those rules and then tried to use some cockamamie health thing and say, yeah, no, it was bad for my mental health that I wasn't gambling. Oh, okay, buddy, come on, try again. As far as the football goes, look, what Field Yates said, there's some truth to it. Like, he is a gamer. He does come off as tough as nails when you watch him on the football field. I ended up weirdly watching a lot of Cincinnati football last year. And then, of course, went back and looked a little bit more when I thought he's going to be the quarterback for Texas Tech. So, yeah, he does come off as sort of a pretty tough guy. I don't think there's too many off-the-field concerns for Brendan Sorsby. It's just, can he always handle the additional scrutiny that's coming his way?
I mean, in terms of what the expectations were for him at Texas Tech, we kept hearing, well, if he has a big year, he's definitely going to be a first-round pick. Call me skeptical about hearing that a year out, because a year ago, Cade Klubnik was going to be a first-round pick. Garrett Nussmeier was going to be a first-round pick. You're watching college football year-round, Cody. You're a Heisman Trophy voter. In terms of Sorsby as a prospect, what were your thoughts going into the year he was supposed to have at Texas Tech?
Brendan Sorsby, with a huge year at Texas Tech, was going to be a first-round pick. I don't agree with Field Yates that he was going to end up, in the right situation in a top 10 scenario. But was he going to be a back end of the first-round guy? One of those guys that teams who really want to take a swing on a quarterback want that fifth-year option, so they go get him, in the 28 to 32 round range? Yes, like he was, but that was going to come with a huge year at Texas Tech. The big thing I always use is, what if he just entered this year's NFL draft? Because he was eligible to enter the draft. He decided to stay in college, which maybe not great judgment. If you knew this was kind of hanging around with you, bud, maybe you should have gone to the NFL draft in a pretty weak quarterback class. But I don't know. I mean, he's not a first-round pick in this year's draft. He wouldn't have been a second-round pick in this year's draft. I have a hard time seeing him be a third-round pick in this past year's draft. So he'd have been a day 3 guy with some hope and upside. And the thought that he was maybe a first-rounder next year was, again, built on the hope that he continued to showcase some of the good stuff from Cincinnati at Texas Tech, and also built on it with the Red Raiders. So, this is not a first-round talent that somebody is drafting in the supplemental draft if they ultimately draft him. If you consider him to be a 2026 draft pick, it feels a lot like a borderline 3-4 talent to me.
It's just an odd situation, because from a Jet standpoint, they took Cade Klubnik in the 4th round. Okay, day 3 pick, that's fine. But the Jet coaching staff needs to show progress. They need to win games. Otherwise, they won't be here for 2027. Like, if you take Sorsby, okay, he's in your quarterback room. They're going to stick with Geno as long as possible, because he's at least a professional quarterback, unlike what they put out there on the field for most of last year. It's just tough to envision the Jets being the best fit. That said, we heard reports that when the Jets were doing their homework on David Bailey, they were getting an up-close and personal view of Sorsby as well. Multiple people said that the Jets went out of their way to do some digging on Sorsby when they were in Lubbock for David Bailey's pro day. So just your thoughts on the Jets dynamic here, and whether or not it would make sense for them to potentially use one of their picks in the supplemental draft on Sorsby.
It's really good scouting to go ahead and kind of get some of that homework started and create a baseline for you. And a lot of NFL teams care a whole lot more about the year before the guys come out of college than most of us think about. A lot of us think about, hey, whatever their most recent year in college was, that's a huge element of the evaluation, and it is, and it feels to me like the most important. But teams put a lot more value in that previous year. So it's great scouting for the Jets to set the baseline. But my thought was they're setting the baseline for the hopes that they have a good report for 2027, not because they were super interested in having the guy just show up in 2026. And your point's the biggest one. Brendan Sorsby can't help you win a bunch of football games in 2026. Like, this is not some prodigy that's coming in and can take over midseason and steward you to a bunch of victories at the NFL level. If you're taking Brendan Sorsby, it's a multi-year commitment with the hope that he showcases something in 2026 and then maybe solidifies himself as your quarterback in 27 and beyond. That's the big thing with Sorsby, is you do it that way with him. He's not helping you win football games in 2026. And as you put it, the Jets got to do, from a coaching staff perspective, as much winning as they can in 2026 to keep their jobs, to take those swings at 2027's quarterback class.
How do you view the quarterback class in 2027? Obviously, again, when it comes to college football, if I ever have a question, Cody's always one of my go-tos. He's watching it year-round. He's got a Heisman vote, so he has to be watching all the schools with the big-time players for that. Your thoughts on this quarterback class that, again, a year ago we hyped up saying 2026 could be historic. There's classic tweets of Orlovsky and Todd McShay's way too early mock draft that had Garrett Nussmeier going in the top 5 and, Lenore Sellers and so many of these guys. And then at the end of the day, it's Fernando Mendoza who comes out of nowhere, and he's the only true consensus first-round guy. Do you think the 27 QB class will truly be a lot better than what we saw this past year?
I really do. It's going to be highlighted by Arch Manning and Dante Moore for a lot of people. But this year, to me, I think there's probably going to end up being 20, 25 guys when the college football season starts where you're kind of just, they're on the radar. And obviously a lot of those guys are going to fall off the radar. Like I don't want to tell you there's going to be, 20 draftable quarterbacks next year. But I think you start the year with like 25 names. And as the year goes on, you kind of go, all right, no thanks. Okay, no thanks. You start crossing those guys off. But you absolutely have the, like the legacy, the name, the finally showed everything that he's supposed to be in Arch Manning. You have the guy that went back to make it look better in Dante Moore. And then you have a huge opportunity for what I call the Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray theory to get executed. Guys who are off the radar, guys who are not considered first-round picks or top picks, and they go have a huge year, and they find themselves right there in the conversation. Because, Mayfield had started to build a profile, but then Mayfield went out there and was amazing his final year in college, and he found himself as the top pick. Same with Kyler Murray. It'd been, and then boom, he's amazing, and then all of a sudden he's the top pick. There's a ton of names to pay attention to. It's Baskin Robbins. There's going to be a lot of different flavors and types of quarterbacks that you can go out there and get. And I'm pretty excited to watch this 2027 quarterback class. And it's also, if the Jets end up winning a few more games than you think at the top of the draft, it's good that there could be quarterbacks because you might see a better player at another position get pushed down because of the desire for these quarterbacks too. Obviously, I think there's probably a hope that a QB marriage happens for the Jets with those 2027 picks. But I like this class a lot. And I'm starting the year with about 25 names, and I'll start crossing them off with extreme prejudice as the season goes on.
In addition to covering college football, you cover the Houston Texans up close. Texans playing a division with the Indianapolis Colts. The Jets own the Colts first-round pick. What's your outlook on the Colts? Because there's a lot of Jet fans hoping that the Colts can play as poorly as they played in the second half last year once Daniel Jones went down.
The Colts, I feel like the Colts stink. They don't have a ton of juice right now to me. There's a chance that they end up being the worst team in the AFC South, which that may be a 5-win team. That may be a 6-win team. I don't love their defense. They've got a pretty decent defensive line, but everything behind that's got a bunch of question marks. I know they do have Sauce Gardner, but I don't like the other corner that they have in Ward. He's hurt a bunch. I don't like their safety situation. Their linebacker situation is a total changeover from what they had. And I don't love this offense. They still got a decent offensive line. They still got Jonathan Taylor, so that gives them a nice baseline. But Daniel Jones is coming back from a serious set of leg injuries. They spent $1 gazillion on Alec Pierce. He's already hurt and missing a ton of time and going to miss time into training camp. It feels like he just duped them into a lot of money. And this is an organization that's thinking they're a lot closer than they actually are by evidence of the trade that they made for Sauce Gardner. The Colts stink. Actually, I put the Colts down as a team that should be interested in Brendan Sorsby in the supplemental draft and use one of those mid-round picks. Hell, they've already jettisoned a first-round pick. What's a mid-round, first-round picks for a corner? What's a mid-round pick for a potential quarterback? But yeah, I don't like the Colts this season. It's not a lock that the Titans are better than them, but I definitely see a scenario where the Titans have put enough together, have a better defense than previous couple seasons, and they can win a few games and finish ahead of the Colts in the AFC South.
What's fascinating to me about the Colts, Cody, their backup quarterback right now is either Anthony Richardson, Riley Leonard, or Easton Stick. Those are the other three quarterbacks behind Daniel Jones. We know Phillip Rivers came out of retirement because they had no faith in the guys that they had last year, and it's still the same guys. Are you surprised the Colts have not added a legit backup behind Daniel Jones?
They like Riley Leonard, and it's probably a little too much from their evaluation standpoint. And he had a pretty good game against the Houston Texans at the end of the year last year. And, it wasn't a game that the Texans had to have. It would have been nice if they did. And so it wasn't like your full strength locked in Houston Texans. So I think they have a lot more belief in Daniel Jones than I do, especially with the injury that he's coming off of. And it seems like they like Leonard maybe a little bit more than some people. But if Riley Leonard had to play 8 games, you would not win a lot of those games. It's not like he gives you a great chance at it. They've put all their eggs in the Daniel Jones basket. It's a foolish basket to have put their eggs in. And again, I think this is a team that should be thinking Sorsby in the supplemental draft.
It's going to be fascinating to see where Sorsby ends up for sure. You mentioned the Titans before. That's the Jets' week 1 opponent. We're doing a big As Maniac meetup down in Nashville. So again, for those of you interested, click the links in the description for all the details on our Nashville takeover. The big thing, of course, being to reserve your spot at our free Barstool Nashville event from 4 to 7 the day before the game. Your thoughts on the Tennessee Titans? Robert Saleh, their head coach, Brian Daboll, their offensive coordinator. That's the opponent for the Jets. It's the Jets Super Bowl early on for a lot of us. Your thoughts on the Titans now with Saleh as their coach?
They don't feel that dangerous as a week 1 or early season opponent, just because it's going to take some time. Cam Ward, I do wonder from a Brian Daboll standpoint how much he's had to kind of rebuild what Cam Ward did last year. Like, it was a pretty disappointing season last year from Cam Ward from a statistical output standpoint. But when you think about the challenges that he dealt with, he got sacked 55 times. His head coach was a buffoon and got fired early on in the season, and didn't have a ton of weapons. They've added some weapons for him. The offensive line's still a disaster. The rushing attack still has some questions, though I like Tony Pollard more than your average person. They're going to be a team that's going to have to rely on their defense keeping games close and Cam Ward just to make enough plays in that category to make it happen. I like that front 7. I think that's one of the better defensive lines that you're going to run into over the course of the season with Jeffrey Simmons in the middle, John Franklin Myers. They obviously added Jermaine Johnson. Keldrick Falk was one of my favorite draft picks in this upcoming draft for a team at the back end of the first round. Of course, they traded up to go and get him. So I think that they're going to be a defensive line and kind of front 7 forward team. So as long as your offensive line's taking care of business, you should have a pretty good shot early on against the Titans, because I don't think they can block for Cam Ward right now. They're going to have to prove that. And yeah, they added some weapons for him at wide receiver and Carnell Tate and Wan'Dale Robinson. It's going to take time for that to get worked into the season. So they're a more dangerous opponent as the season goes on, not to the start of the season.
Today's Jake Asman Show is presented by PrizePicks. Use promo code HMA, and if you put $5 in, you can get $50 instantly in lineups. For those just tuning in, Cody Stoots is a proud Texas Tech alum. We had him on the show leading up to the draft where he said the Jets should take David Bailey over Arvell Reese.
Hey, here's the deal. Just got no chance unless you click on that like button. And you got to make sure you subscribe to the Jake Asman Show. You don't, you can get the f*** out. Now let's go, As Maniacs. We're built for this shit.